the best of the week on Relevant Radio.
Wanted to start with, I love starting with kind of Pope Leo news, and he had two big appointments over the weekend that I think were noteworthy, and some of those moments where, I was talking with my wife, Maggie, and it was fascinating. We were talking about art, and it might even be a conversation that winds up at the kitchen table at some point, just about what is good art and what makes good art, and there was a whole reason for that conversation surrounding the novel Theo of Golden, which is buzzy right now, and we both read and I loved, but also had, brought up questions around art. And we were talking about how fascinating it is when you look in the past. John Paul II, it was like every time he wrote anything, it has now become this like legacy piece in the church that we just really grab hold of. We were talking about, he wrote a letter to the artist, right? Or a letter to women. And some of these things have become almost like just so much part of the tradition that you can go back to them. And I think in some ways it's because of John Paul's, he had that unique prophetic charism to just say the truth in a memorable way that people really grabbed hold of and kind of locked into and made you think, and it was so memorable. And, Pope Leo, it's different, right? In the social media age, we're inundated with so much information now. It can be hard to almost grab hold of any one thing. But he has this gift, a similar gift in a different way to John Paul, where he has just that ability to have that turn of phrase that just sticks with you. And so he went over the weekend, I guess it would have been on Saturday, it's called the Rimini Meeting. It's a meeting for young people at the Rimini Cathedral, which is on the coast, just north, I believe, like northeast of San Marino. So San Marino is a fascinating place. If you go look up on Google Maps, San Marino, if you haven't had a chance to, it is a wholly contained country, like a landlocked country where like you're in a different nation from Italy, but it's within the boundary of Italy. There's a whole history there that we don't have time to get into of why San Marino is its own country, but they even have like their own soccer team that tries to qualify for the World Cup every year, even though they only have like 30,000 people in the whole country. So it's about, an hour north. If you kind of come out of Rome and you drove kind of into Umbria toward Assisi, and then you carved up north toward the beach, San Marino is there, and Rimini on the coast there. And so Pope Leo is only the second pope to attend San Marino in person. John Paul II went there in 1982. John Paul II went everywhere. So it was 44 years later. And, Pope Leo had some very beautiful words for the youth there that sounded to me, I've made this point over and over again, that I think Pope Leo was very formed by John Paul II. And his words in San Marino, kind of thundered like that again, like the way John Paul did. So he brought up, Pope Benedict had said in 2011, do not stay in the partial immediate answers, easier at first and more comfortable, which can give some moments of happiness, of exultation, but do not lead you to the true joy of living. And Pope Benedict had said to pilgrims at the time, your heart is an open window to infinity. And so Pope Leo said on August 22nd, he quoted Benedict and he said, well, dear young people, keep that window open. Follow with the gaze of the soul the paths that trace in you the great longings for beauty, goodness, and life that you carry in your heart. So that was John Paul. What he knew how to do, right, is speak to the human heart and call it upward. And then at the Angelus yesterday, Pope Leo again had this very challenging, very beautiful message where he just really spoke to the gospel yesterday. Obviously, you remember was the conversation with Peter at Caesarea Philippi, where he asks the apostles, like, who are people saying that I am? Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah the prophet, but who do you say I am? And Peter says, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. You are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, is how that ends, right? And there's a lot of great themes that can be taken from, I'd be interested what your priest preached on yesterday, like how he unpacked that theme. Ours focused on that idea of Petrine authority, really came from that, which is about a confession of faith, but it's about more than that. It's about a person. And, Pope Leo really dug into that profession of faith part of it, where he really focused on how Jesus calls out to people to be recognized as the Christ. And I think that's just one of the most beautiful things when the popes do. We call that charismatic preaching. Whenever you're looking for people really preaching the person of Jesus Christ and inviting people to respond to that, we refer to it as like the kerygma. And it might seem, I think to some of us, it might seem like surfacey or something, where I'm like, well, everyone gets it. Everyone knows that Jesus is the Lord, but it's the core content of the church's preaching, and that preaching itself is power. So it's very powerful to see Pope Leo preach that way.
That was the Best of the Week on Relevant Radio. The best way to listen to the Best of the Week is on the Relevant Radio app, free and always free. Download and share the #1 free Catholic app today in the App Store.